Welcome to the DTC Insider Podcast, where online business owners come to find actionable tips and tactics to grow their businesses. Now, here's your host, Brian Roisentul.
Real quick before we continue with the episode, let me tell you something. If you own or work for a DTC brand and you're not hitting your revenue and profitability goals, you're not alone. Things are getting harder, and what used to work doesn't anymore. That's why it's important to find a business-oriented partner that's focused on improving the levers that will change the game for your business. And believe me, it is possible. At BSR Digital, to give you an example, we have recently helped our clients generate between, listen well, 80 and 700K in extra monthly revenue. If you'd like to explore how we could do the same for you and your business, head on over to bsrdigital.com and book a call with us. Hey, welcome to another episode. My name is Brian Roisentul, and today I have the pleasure to have Jordyn Casaus. She's the marketing director of the healthcare brand Crown Affair. Hey, Jordyn, thanks for being here on the show.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Yeah, so it's great to have you here. So I wanted as the first step for you to introduce yourself to the audience. Tell them more about you, your background, and why not about the company.
Yeah, absolutely. So yes, my name is Jordyn. I am our director of marketing here at Crown Affair, really kind of overseeing mostly the digital channels. So all things e-com, paid, CRM, loyalty, all that fun stuff. I've been at the company for about 3.5 years, so have overseen a little bit of everything, startup, small team, many hats. So had a lot of time on the brand marketing side as well, but now really focusing on the digital channels, which has been really awesome. So a little bit about a background. So I've been in the beauty space, like I said, for about 3.5 years. Before that, I was at a company called Buck Mason menswear. So I was there for a couple years and then was in menswear again at another company under the 5-4 group. And from there went to Crown Affair. So have been in the startup space for a really long time, went from apparel to, CPG and beauty, but have learned a lot throughout my career. I've kind of split between, the performance marketing realm as well as the brand marketing realm, kind of my whole career, which has been so impactful. And I've learned so much kind of throughout the pause along the way. And so, yeah, it's been really great. And then Crown Affair, yes, it's a hair care brand. We are at Sephora as well as our D2C channels. So that's kind of our two main channels right now. We offer everything from like your in-shower products, so shampoo, conditioner, our hair mask, cleansing scrub, things like that, to post-shower. So we have a lot of styling products, tools, but we're really focused on, it's all clean, but it's very, very effective, and very much on like the lifestyle part of the brand, which speaks a lot to our brand ethos, but also, high performing. And yeah.
Amazing. So I will definitely ask you about Sephora later. So I will say that one. But before going there, we are recording this episode by the end of July 2024. It's been the first half, it's already in. So I wanted to ask you, what's your take on, everything that's going on in the DTC space? What do you think brands are struggling with lately or currently?
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone's marketing problem, I think we could all say, to say the least, is really kind of comes down to attribution, right? And kind of like who your target customer is and how are we speaking to said customer, I think are a few things that everyone kind of struggles with. So on the attribution side, it's really kind of honing in on, what's working, what's not working, where is traffic coming from, where is revenue coming from, and really leaning into those channels. And then from that, kind of like taking those learnings and applying it to your customers that is like where they are in the funnel. So obviously when you're thinking of, top of funnel customer acquisition, how are we talking to the right customer, meeting her where she needs to be met, who is she, and kind of getting her in the funnel and really focusing on those like retention and loyalty pieces. But I think really tailoring where your customers, like I said, are at in their funnel is just, it's difficult, but it's also the fun challenge that comes to, just the D2C space really. And I think right now the ever changing, social media influencer kind of TikTok strategy of the world, we've kind of like evolved honestly into influencer marketing now just being part of how we do things, and kind of like you see an ad and it's no longer, oh, well, this is an ad, so I'm not going to watch it. It's an ad, but you're still influenced by it. And so really kind of focusing on these channels that are really driving customer acquisition, I think is important, can be difficult, but once you kind of crack the code for your business is so important. And then also kind of on the retention piece, that I think a lot of brands kind of struggle with. I'm like, okay, it's very saturated, especially in the beauty space. There's lots of brands, especially at Sephora. You're walking in and you're kind of bombarded by a bunch of hair care brands, for example, for, Crown Affair. And how do we stand out? How are we different? How is our product different? And so I think I wouldn't necessarily say struggle, but I think it's definitely important it keeps you on your toes, and it's important to kind of stay on top of it for sure.
Definitely, that's everything you said is great because we see the same thing, and we've been discussing this at length with all the guests we had. Some mentioned, the biggest struggle is profitability. Some of them mentioned attribution, as you did, and different things. But definitely, the bar is higher.
Mhm.
I sometimes I wish to, I could press a button and go back to the good old days where a static work for I don't know 3 months in a row, and we did nothing but a Facebook ad for things to work. But
Mhm.
these few years were different. I think in a good way. Of course, it's more challenging. We don't have uh, the accuracy on the data as we used to have, especially on paid ads. Customers are, smarter, or let's say more educated on how
Mhm.
things work. And he said you can run ads, but you need to know how to create them in a way that people are still engaged with them.
Yeah.
And standing out on Sephora, we are going to talk about that in a sec. But DTC first online, it's hard already. So you mentioned first, attribution. What do you do at Crown Affair to deal with that? Do you use attribution tools? Does that solve the problem partially, totally?
Yeah, gosh, it's such a good question. I think having the right tools in place is definitely important. We use a platform called Triple Whale. We've used a few in the past. Right now, that is what I'm using. I think what's really important is to have a platform that has one pixel. So you're not looking at just a platform they're just pulling everything in that specific platform into one dashboard. That's when things obviously can get super muddy. So working with the platform, I know there's like Lifetimely, there's a few other ones out there. But it has one pixel and you can really look at everything holistically. Of course, it's important from a trend perspective to look in platforms. So Klaviyo, Attentive, Shopify, things like that. Shopify and GA kind of being that last click is important, obviously, to look at, but having a tool that you can look at multiple windows is very important. But I think it's one of those things, right, where it comes to attribution and you can say, oh, well, 50-60% of our traffic is coming from search. That doesn't necessarily mean, they could see an ad before, they could see an Instagram post before, they could see several other things before they close that browser. They go to Google, they search it, and that's obviously where it's attributed to. So kind of looking at that multi-touch attribution, I'm kind of getting into the data nerd weeds of it, but like that's really important. And
You
really
don't have
just
any
track.
options. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. There's lots. I know. I wish there was kind of one tool that kind of gave it all, but yeah, I think doing a lot of customer surveys, like post-purchase surveys, things like that, just to kind of understand. But yeah, I would say having a platform that has a pixel for sure.
for sure. But the tricky part with attribution is what you said, that even though you have the data right there, and let's say it's accurate, there's no such thing as the perfect attribution. It's like trying to chase the sun. And
Yes.
probably some people listening or watching, this already, heard me saying this over and over. So my apologies if you're one of them, right? But it's it's like trying to chase the sun because it depends on the lenses you put on to
Hmm.
understand if they came from Google. As you said, maybe the Google was the first touch, but it's not that linear either. So Attributions should be used for certain things, at least that's my take. Some brands go to the point of, and it's not wrong, but some brands go to the point of optimizing based on what they see on the attribution platform, not trusting what they see in platform, but trusting what they see on the other side.
Yeah.
And sometimes that could get messy. But again, for many brands work, we work with clients that that's what they want us to do, work with this data. And some others
Mhm.
rather use that data as, the North Star to say, hey, this is coming from here, this is coming from there, but not to the level of the campaign or the ad or turning off an ad set or whatever. So
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah. So I asked you about, the challenges for brands. What about for marketing directors?
Well, I think being able to answer all the questions about attribution and what's working and not working, why are we up or why are we down? Um, so no, it's the best part, honestly, of my job. It's really fun. It's like solving a puzzle every day, honestly. Um, but I think a challenge too, especially with a smaller team, we have about 15 or so employees that are at Crown Affair. But as we were growing, I think one of the biggest challenges kind of just small team and many hats and limited bandwidth. And, I think that would be probably one of the biggest things our team is so incredible. They work so hard. Everyone's really passionate. We get the job done and in an amazing way. We always say small but mighty. Um, so it works, but I think kind of having great agency support, a great team is definitely really important. But can be sometimes one of the biggest challenges when you want to do a bunch of things and you want to scale a certain time or a certain way, or, you're looking at your marketing calendar or you're looking at, a specific project, like, gosh, I need 5 more people in order to get this done at the time that we need. So I would say that that's not necessarily a challenge, but something that's always would be great to have. And then, yeah, I think having the responsibility for your channels that you own on the marketing side, especially, like I mentioned earlier, just focusing and owning all of the digital channels. Um, right now, kind of being somewhat of a one-man team on the digital side. I have one, freelancer that's really helpful and supportive on all things CRM, but working closely with like our paid agency, my dev team on all things e-com, but just kind of owning a lot of those. Like I said, it's kind of a one-man team is probably one of the biggest challenges right now. But again, just thankful for the support that I do have. But yeah, and I think, reporting and looking ahead and planning ahead and things like that, even though, we can get super busy in our day to day, but just making sure we're really planning ahead. Right now, we're looking at 2025, finalizing those KPIs and revenue goals and things like that. So just leaving plenty of room, being like a department head to really set my team up for success, once we align on that.
So you already planned Black Friday, Cyber Monday, didn't you?
We have, yes.
Okay, let me ask you a question. I know probably you won't be able to reveal the whole thing, and I don't want to, but are you going to start? Is it going to be more like Black November, or is it going to be a Black Friday, Cyber Monday?
I know, it's crazy how early people are starting. We are not starting that early. I will say that. It's not a whole month thing. I think, a lot of brands, we try to be super tasteful and very brand focused with it. I think our customers, we've kind of done the same timing and offering in the last few years. So making sure that, our customers are expected and they know what's coming, and meeting them in that space. And then also having some new stuff planned, which is really exciting. But no, we will not be starting in October or early November, like I know some brands are doing, which is
Yeah.
crazy.
I mean, with the brands I'm speaking with, it's all over the place. It's all over the place. Some of them, I don't know if October, but yes, as early as November 1st, some, and some of them are, doing it in 3 phases, pre-Black Friday, Cyber Monday, Black Friday and Cyber Monday, and then because I think it's the 29th, November 29th. So we have like
Yeah.
a week, like a week less compared to previous years because of some things I've heard. And because typically it's the 24th, the 25, but
Mhm.
the way it is, it's like 5 days of difference, so it's almost a week. So we have less time to make more money. And Christmas is, a lot closer because I think it's Cyber Monday is the second or something like that. So it's already December by the time of Cyber Monday. So yeah, it's kind of crazy, but yeah. So I wanted to ask you about, before we continue talking about DTC, which I love, and we will continue the conversation, I promise. I wanted to ask you quickly about Sephora. Um, I know you started 2 years ago there. So I know many brands listening to this are looking to start in Sephora or similar, and they are thinking, is this the right move for me right now? Is What do I need to keep in mind when entering retail? The ups and
Mhm.
downs, things that probably they are not considering, and you say, hey,
Mhm.
nobody's going to do the marketing for you on retail, right? So those kind of things. And what does it represent to this day to Crown
Mhm.
Affair being there?
Yeah, such a good question. I mean, Sephora, so yes, we launched, the brand is about 4 years old, like 4.5 years old. We launched in Sephora at about 2 years old. So very young, very new. A lot of people didn't know about us at the time. And so it was a risky move, but a really good one, obviously, to help awareness and help grow our brand. Um, our focus, especially for the first year, I would say, year and a half, was really building the Sephora business. So not putting D2C on the back burner or ignoring D2C. But we went through some challenges in terms of like, how do we talk to the Sephora customer? How do we talk to our D2C customer? Is there a difference? Is there not a difference? How do we, there's a lot of marketing strategy that went into that. The Sephora consumer is very concern focused. I'll just speak to hair care, but I have frizzy hair. I want X, Y, and Z product. My hair is falling out. What do I do about that? I'm going to go to Sephora and ask, their team, what I can do to help solve that problem. And at the time, we were not concern focused. We were very like, love your hair. Your natural hair is beautiful. Use Crown Affair to help enhance, your natural texture, your natural waves. Love your hair. Talking about this like art of the air dry, like really loving your air dry, not using heat on your hair, things like that. And then, the Sephora customer being very different from that. So kind of evolving our education, our messaging, our photography, like everything to kind of really now, I mean, I would say today we've come to this place where it's no longer like, we're going to do this for Sephora and we're going to do this for D2C. And it's really like, we're doing this for Crown Affair, and it bleeds across, from an omni-channel perspective across other smaller wholesalers that we're in, but also the Sephora and D2C space. So sharing messaging, education, assets, things like that across the board. So all of that to say, we really evolved into that, and that's where we are today. But early on, I would say, anyone that's kind of going into this, like, especially very big box retailer, it's so crucial for the brand. It's so important. Obviously, I very much recommend it from an awareness standpoint. It's huge. But their team, they have, a massive company. So they have a team that's like specifically focused on hair care that we work really closely with. They help direct, our product roadmap and our messaging and things like that. And they're partners in that. And it's really helpful, but really aligning with them on what that looks like, staying really close with them on that. But they're just like another arm, to the business, and really utilizing that relationship. And it's really important. And so instead of it being like an us versus them, like coming together as a team and helping to grow the business. So, they were helpful, and they were really helping us push, you need to have like a hero SKU instead of saying all your products are your hero products, where, for us, we were like, yes, they are, they're all heroes. And, they really were like, focus on one. There's a lot of beauty brands and makeup brands and things like that. You have like one hero SKU, and then all your other products kind of complement that. So what did that mean for us? And I could go on forever about this, but I think, they've been really helpful in kind of guiding our marketing and our branding in that direction, to where, we are today. So I think the more you grow with these bigger retailers, the more you invest in it, the more that you push, let's say, in terms of our dark marketing dollars and like how we are investing in Sephora growth, that also keeping in mind, like top of funnel wise, helps our D2C business as well. So it was a lot of trial and error, honestly, in terms of like focusing on the two and what does that look like, to now really having like a strong understanding of what that looks like. And it's really helping our business. But all good things. It takes some time for sure.
Yeah, so we have had a lot of stories here in the pod about, going into retail for different industries, different companies. And yeah, this this is a classic. The other one is, depending again on the retail store, the education for the team that's on the ground, in the store,
Mhm.
you know, advising people coming through the store about your brand, sometimes saying the wrong things about your brand. So how do you go about that? Did you need to do that, or
Yeah.
does Sephora do it for you in this case?
Yeah, so we have, that's a great question. We have hired what's called like a field team manager. So she sits on our team, but she manages all of what's called a field team for Sephora to go into these stores, talk to Sephora specifically. They're called beauty advisors, but they're basically their, employees that talk about brands. So when, a customer walks in and they say, I want to change my hair care routine, we want them to know about Crown Affair, know what to talk about, know the difference between us and all of, our competitors or other hair care brands there. And so the difference that makes in having, so we have like 3 people kind of on our internal team that help manage this like Sephora business as a whole, the field team, and things like that. It's a very massive
Yeah,
team slash, like, it's so important to have. And we've seen a massive increase in awareness and store, revenue. And the difference between like stores that have a lot of field team experience and, touch points with our brand versus those that don't. And so building that, and especially as you grow doors. So, right now or when we first launched, we were in about like 50, 60 doors, and like continuing that growing year over year over year to get to a point where, you're in all doors and you want people to know about your brand and to be able to talk about it. So they're kind of your own marketing team within each individual store. But yes, so incredibly important, and definitely worth investing in for sure.
amazing. Going back to DTC now, the online, I would love to start talking about acquisition, or talking more about acquisition and retention.
Mhm.
What top channels are working for you?
Yeah, so I talked a little bit about this, but influencer marketing is definitely a big one. That's also taken, some time to really discover what's working and not working. But when you think about top of funnel, you think about customer acquisition, it's what channels are you using for people to discover your brand or to try and use your product? So paid advertising is a very important one, for us, as well as influencer. I think, I could kind of name them all. They kind of all have some form of acquisition that's super important in terms of like organic social or PR and, partnerships and events and things like that, which we um, execute on all of them. But I think in terms of really tracking kind of that measurable, we poured this much into it. What are we getting out of it? What is our new customer growth month over month? What's our CAC month over month? So really looking at, I think, influencer and paid marketing are really big ones. And we've spent a lot of time kind of juggling this, but all of our, brand marketing efforts, like I mentioned, partnerships, events, PR, social, things like that, and our digital marketing efforts. So, all things paid advertising. When one is firing and one isn't, it's really hard to have the effect on one or the other, and how important it is from an omni-channel perspective to have them both firing at the same time. And both strategies are super cohesive. And, so when our brand marketing team is like doing an incredible partnership, having tons of events one month, all of their organic influencer efforts have increased one month. And I'm just keeping my budget as is for paid and not really focusing too much on like, getting that creative and pushing it in paid. You kind of lose it, right? Because your customer at multiple touch points is missing, if they're getting an ad and it looks very different than our social or kind of what else we're doing on other channels, and the two kind of aren't cohesive together, I think the customer just kind of gets lost in what's going on in the Crown Affair world. And so again, we've learned this one the hard way too, but it's been a really good trial and error and like testing phase for us to make sure that like all of our paid marketing efforts as well as our brand marketing efforts are firing at the same time, and we're talking to each other about what our plans are, and we're really focusing on what the strategy is, and that's made a huge difference for sure.
It's interesting because I always heard one of them, I mean, one way, but not the other way. So I'll explain. Of course, the brand, or let's say the brand effect or the organic presence, everything, of course, impacts paid ads. We've seen that,
Mhm.
across the board. Are you saying that you see the other way around as well? So if you do something good on brand, but you don't do
Yeah.
something similar on paid, it impacts paid.
Yeah. So, I mean, I can give like an example of this, but let's say that I mean, this happened, but like our dry shampoo from a paid ad perspective, we had several ads that, I hate the word, but went viral, quote unquote, really took off, was getting a majority of spend, was just really driving that business. Let's just say, for example, it was dry shampoo. Our founder, her ads for dry shampoo just kept doing well time and time and time again. And so that was such a huge learning for us. So we saw, because of paid ads, that kind of have a moment and really took off our dry shampoo business. And so making sure that brand marketing, and so again, social media, influencer on the organic side, things like that are like matching that, right? Are we talking about dry shampoo on social? Are we talking of our influencers talking about dry shampoo? Does our PR team know that like X, Y, and Z is happening with dry shampoo? Little things that just making sure that we kind of are all speaking. I mean, doesn't happen all the time. I would say definitely more like the brand marketing moments and making sure paid is like really meeting that, but also it can happen the other way around if you have a moment for a specific product, especially if it's like one of your hero SKUs. I think it's really important to make sure you're watching that. And I'll say, kind of speak to like the creative piece for paid ads. Like I said, our founder, she was doing a lot of ads for us. She speaks to our product the best. Her hair is beautiful. She, is super enthusiastic. She's great in front of the camera. So her ads, again, were doing really, really well. So I had to kind of take that and say, okay, what is it about these ads that's working, and how can I replicate that with other UGC, like influencer content creator ads? So our founder's not the only one that's creating ads for us, right? So really looking at that, doing a lot of testing for her ads, taking those learnings and putting it into our briefs for influencers for paid ads, right? So if she's talking about dry shampoo in a specific way and she's saying X, Y, and Z for these hooks, or her lighting is a specific way, or her hair is down, I'm just throwing out examples, taking that and really tailoring our briefs for all content creators to be able to match that, to test to see if other, influencers and their paid ads can work the same way, right? So I think, and then from those learnings, it's kind of like a domino effect, right? So from those learnings and those ads, then that kind of bleeds into all of our other channels, right? So if I say, hey team, if we're talking about dry shampoo this way, time and time again, it's working. Customers are clicking through, customers, like the thumb stop rate on that is really high. Why don't we try a social campaign on this? Or why don't we send an email about this? So I think there's learnings. Again, paid media is like one of the main channels that you actually can get data from that is way more robust than other channels. And so taking those learnings to all of your channels is so important.
I'd love to ask you a few follow-up questions on influencer marketing because I think that it's something that everyone wants to, do, even those brands that are not, even more those brands that are not already doing that. Sometimes they don't know where to start. First off, to source influencers that are good for the
Yeah.
brand. And then
Mhm.
I love if you can give us more or less a breakdown, let's say, of the process you use to make sure that, to create good content with these influencers and make sure you do what you want them to do,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, so I can kind of speak to how we have it structured. And this has evolved so much. I mean, I'd say this is in the last like 3 months, so it evolves all the time. But we kind of look at it between like organic influencer strategy and our paid influencer strategy. Our organic influencer strategy is the goal there. And, the objective of that is very awareness, top of funnel. What is her engagement like this influencer's engagement like? What is her follower count? What is her type of content? Is she a get ready with me girl? Is she a, mom? Is she kind of like, who is this woman? And how can she broaden our awareness? And is she new? Has she used Crown Affair before? How does she talk to camera? But it's very like top of funnel awareness. That's the objective. And then on the paid marketing side, which I help kind of oversee, and I work really closely with their influencer team on this, but I don't necessarily care, what her follower count is or kind of, what her engagement rate is. I'm just focused on, can she talk to camera well? How is her content? What does her hair look like? How is her voice when she talks? Is she, I kind of again speak to, and I'll speak to the two types of customers, but like, is she a mom with kids? And is her content, I feel like from an ad perspective would do really well. So we look at just different things and there's different objectives on both sides, which I think is really important. I think for a long time for us, it was like, if it's performing well in organic, let me try it on paid. And that worked sometimes, and sometimes it didn't, but I think what allows you to have a way more on the paid marketing side. So again, or content that you're taking and you're pushing on your ad channels, you're looking at that and you can brief out, you're paying these people, right, to create content for you. So you give them a brief. The brief is very tailored. I think per product, making sure that it's super consistent on the messaging across the board. This is all channels, but we can say, hey, start with this hook. Here's the main key benefits of it. Talk about X, Y, and Z. Make sure that it looks X, Y, and Z way. We want them to have plenty of creative freedom to feel like themselves, for it to feel organic. We're not like, you must say this and do this and talk about how much you love it. It's really not that. It's just be yourself. We kind of chose you for a reason in terms of creating content for us, but I think that's kind of the main objective. So that's kind of how we have it broken out. I think right now, again, really focusing on who's your target demographic. We kind of have like two when we talk about this sort of strategy. So we have this like younger girl, she's maybe finds us on TikTok. She sees, our founder and one of her viral videos about her twisting clip and wants to try it. So she comes and buys one product and maybe comes back, maybe doesn't, but this kind of like Sephora customer, she's trying all the brands and we have to tailor to that, right? I don't think that's necessarily a bad customer, but maybe she's kind of driving down our LTV or our retention rates if she's just kind of bumping around and trying other products. And then you have, someone who is maybe a little bit older. She doesn't really blink an eye if she has to pay, $65 on shampoo and conditioner. Our price point is a little bit higher, but it also comes into, I could talk about the effectiveness of the product forever. It's so incredible, but like really understanding who your customer is, how do you speak to her again on what channel? And I think that's really, really important for influencers. So if I want to make sure that our luxury aspect of the product is really coming out, I'm speaking to the price point and things like that, I need to make sure that the influencers match that. You know what
Makes
I mean?
sense. And I love the fact that the founder records content because
Yeah.
I cannot emphasize enough how important it is for brands these days to record content, to own the content, even if it's with the team or if it's through creators. But it's really important that brands create content. The days of using stock footage are long gone. Only statics work really well, but still it requires for content anyway. So brands needs to, I don't know what you think about these, but either educate, entertain, but they need to do something of one of those, right? So if they're not doing anything of that, they are going to be left behind because as a founder or team member, if you don't record content, then it's
Yeah.
I always ask them the same question. Do you think that do you think people will benefit from your product? The answer, of course, is yes. Why not screaming it louder? Why not going out there and tell everyone about it? So go out there.
Mhm.
Some people are shy, I understand, some founders, but have someone else. BattleBox. I don't know if you know BattleBox, but I recently interviewed Sean Roman, the CEO at BattleBox. They are great. They even have a TV show on Netflix, right?
Mhm.
And they didn't want to do the content themselves. They identified a cash paying customer by
Mhm.
coincidence a few years ago in 2015, I think it was. The relationship evolved from a freelancer to full time. They moved himself and the family to Texas, and he's now the long beard guy, Brandon, recording every single piece of content behind camera, behind camera, in front of the camera. He used to do it all, and now it's the star. Um, and that's what sometimes it's about, having your customers record things, having not only
Yeah.
influencers, the founder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree. And, the person, so the founder can speak to the product the best. I mean, people say it all the time, when I listen to, her name's Diana, when I listen to Diana talk about the brand, I'm just like, could listen forever, because she's so passionate about it. She talks about it the best. And so I'm very grateful, she's amazing in front of camera too. And she, is just incredible. But I think that's really helpful and really, really important. Because you can have, influencers or a team and things talk about it all day, but when you have that content coming from someone who started it all, it's definitely effective for sure.
Something else you tried, and correct me if I'm wrong, is whitelisting, right?
Yes. Yeah.
How
So
did you working for you?
we go ahead.
No, I asked, how is that working for you?
Yeah. So we did try. Okay. So I would say probably early on, and maybe a year or two ago, um, I think whitelisting was definitely more of a thing. And some people may agree or disagree with this. I think we just a couple years ago we tried it. It worked, but wasn't anything, super relevant, didn't move the needle much for us. So I think just kind of over time we started turning those off and really focusing on, branded assets, UGC, kind of finding our groove there. And I would say just recently we started testing whitelisting again. And I would say in about the last like 2 or 3 weeks. So still kind of fresh for us, but it's doing well. It's performing great. We started, some with influencer and also again, some with our founder. Her organic channels, she is constantly posting on in terms of like Crown Affair content, as well as, personal stuff as well, but really focusing on incredible videos on her Instagram, and TikTok as well. So obviously on the TikTok side, pushing Spark ads is really helpful. That's been a big strategy of ours on the TikTok side of things. And then just recently on Meta, pushing whitelisting. And it's doing great. We're seeing, great click-through rates, just like overall ROAS and stuff coming from those individual ads. I think it's a lot of, let's try this one, turn this one off, it's not doing well, let's try this one. Thankfully, like I said, we have a lot of content to kind of choose from to kind of get our groove there. But starting with our founder is what I'm doing strategy wise to test to see how that does before we really lean into what that can look like on the other influencer
What about
that
TikTok Shop? Did you try it, or are you using it?
we are. Yeah, we're using TikTok Shop, and IG Shop, of course, and both are doing well. Yeah, I think there's a lot of space in the TikTok world, right? I think one of those things, just making sure we have the right understanding of like, okay, we've built like, why do you want to hear from your hair care brand every day on TikTok or on Instagram? And I think our brand is very product focused, but it's also so fun. And we have amazing content that we can post every day. That's more like a lot of like the background and kind of Diana's, she was an art history major. There's a lot of like art references in our brand. It's very brand focused as well, which is such a beautiful part of our brand. And also what really separates us from a lot of competitors as well. And so we really lean into that on TikTok and Instagram. And so making sure, of course, it's very product focused, but also having these brand elements as well. So yes, TikTok shop, Instagram shop, things like that are very, pushing product, always, but then also really having those brand pieces in there too. So you can hear from us every day and you have fun doing it.
Yeah, I I recently interviewed the founder or one of the founders of Little Saints. It's a cool beverage made out of mushrooms. So they want to emulate cocktails, but without alcohol and using mushrooms instead. And they do, fun ads and organic content dressed like the ingredients. So lion's mane, damians,
Yeah.
and they go viral, as you said, between quotes, and they have a lot of fun and they entertain. And they said I look like, uh, you know, I don't know what, I don't want to say she said it, but I look like an idiot, something like that. Uh, Dressed like that, I don't care. That
Yeah.
works. That's what works. So I will do it every single day, and she continues to do so. So I admire
Yeah,
her for
it's so
yeah,
smart. Yeah,
yeah,
I love that. You have to have fun with it. You have to know, what your customers like, what they're engaging with, and just have fun. I mean, I think it's like we did an April Fool's joke this year that we were launching like dog hair product. Like we just, and that like had one of the highest performing posts of
yeah,
the year, I think, at this point. So, there's just a lot that as a CPG brand, it's so important to remain relevant on product, but just to stay true to who you are and bring in other, points of your brand that are going to get people excited and fun and want to stay engaged with you. They want to be, yes, you can talk about your shampoo and conditioner brand every day, but like, how else can why
yeah.
do we want consumers to continue to follow us, continue to stay engaged, to open our emails, to when they see influencers talking about it, really know that they're telling the truth. So I think there's a lot of importance of brand that needs to kind of come through and just to have fun.
Yeah. What's next for Crown Affair?
Well, goodness, we have a very exciting 2025 in terms of product launches, which is very fun. And then, the back half of this year with Q4, we have a product launch coming up here in the next couple weeks. So that's very exciting. And yeah, so just really continuing growth, and next year is going to be a really big one for us. Growth at Sephora, growth on D2C, product launches, growing our business, growing our team. So yeah, we're really excited. I feel like our air dry mousse launch a couple months ago, I kind of kept saying, I was like, I feel like this is not just a new chapter, but a new like book number 2. Honestly, we saw great success from it. And we're just continuing to scale from there. And more people are knowing about us and hearing about us, and we're learning a ton. So just taking all those learnings and just continuing to grow. So a very exciting time for us.
Amazing. Jordyn, I wanted to thank you for being here in the pod. I really appreciate all the value you delivered on this episode. I'm sure that everyone listening or watching, wrote a lot of notes. I did at least. So I wanted to thank you. And before you go, why don't you tell the audience where they can go to learn more about you and Crown Affair?
Yeah, so crownaffair.com. Would love for you guys all to try product and, follow us on TikTok, follow us on Instagram. And for me, LinkedIn's always a good one in terms of all things business. But yeah, thank you so much for having me. This was so fun.
Yeah, so for everyone listening to this or watching, even if you are not already on the DTCinsider.com, go there, find the episode, and you will see all the show notes, including everything we discussed, and of course, what the social handles and the website as well. Jordyn, it was a pleasure having you here. Thank you for coming on the show.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
This episode was brought to you by BSR Digital. We help DTC brands grow through paid ads and email marketing campaigns. If you'd like us to help your business grow, head on over to bsrdigital.com and schedule a call with us.